FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is January 27th, 2020. Well, much to do about nothing. So it would appear the Schumer-Schiff sham show in the Senate is taking place now. And what's your opinion? Why don't you tell us? Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, my opinion, I predicted from the get-go this is going to be a big nothing burger. I also predicted in 2016 that Trump would be elected in 2020. Nothing I have seen over the past 3.5 years or close to 3.5 years, has led me to believe anything different or to doubt my conclusion. Polls, they're all gaslighted. They're all fixed. So is this trial in the Senate. But let's talk with our good friend, Daniel Greenfield. You find him at frontpagemag.com. And Daniel, it's great to have you back on. So you were one of the few people that actually stayed up a couple of nights ago and watched it till 2 p.m. when the blow-ups occurred, huh?
I took one for the team because there's nothing quite as fascinating as watching lawyers debate various points of procedure while trying to insult each other.
and the boredom. I read that the other day, most of the Republican senators had left the room when Shifty Schiff was delivering his vitriolic diatribe, and a lot of the Democrats were passing out. Everybody was in a semi-comatose state. And really, what is the point of all this? That's what I want to know. I was at a group yesterday, a couple days ago, in a diner in Florida, which got picked up by Breitbart News. And everybody was laughing at Schiff, at Jabba the Nadler. I mean, the thing about Jerry Nadler is I liked him a lot better before I found him a lot more charming before he had his unsuccessful bariatric surgery. These two guys are such blowhards. They are serial liars. Nothing truthful has come out of their mouths in years. They've been in their office way too long. This is they're a walking advertisement for term limitations, aren't they?
They are, and you mentioned why is this thing going so long, because everybody has to have time in front of the camera. Now, when you see these guys speechifying in front of the camera, and this is particularly the case when you're not actually showing, when the camera is under Senate control and they're not actually showing all these angles, a lot of the time they're speechifying to empty rooms because people are not actually particularly interested in sitting through this. The viewers at home who actually are foolish enough to sit through this, like me, are the ones who actually have to sit through their speeches. The point of all this is to get each of these guys as much time in front of the camera as possible, which they're then going to use to fundraise. Because then they're going to actually have clips of the speech and they're going to say, send $5, $10 to support me. That's what it's about.
Well, don't you think there's a better way for them to waste their time here? Isn't this kind of pathetic? I mean, what is the point of this, Daniel? I don't understand it at all. What am I missing here?
I mean, this is about them getting a certain amount of fame. I mean, how many people had heard of Schiff before this, really? What percentage of the country do you think had heard of him before? Even what percentage of California had heard of him before? And now he's on the cover of magazines, ditto for Nadler. These guys are becoming very famous off this. They know perfectly well it's not actually going to lead to a successful impeachment, but they're building their careers this way. And, Schiff after this is probably going to start thinking about a Senate run.
Oh, my God, help us. Well, look, there was a question on Jeopardy the other day. Now, look, if you or I were watching it, we would have known the answer. But they asked 153rd of the California congressional delegation is chairman of the House Committee on Intelligence. And these three people were pretty qualified. They all had multi-thousands of dollars in winnings to that point. They didn't know who the heck he was. They even showed his picture, Daniel, and nobody knew this guy from Adam. What does that tell you?
It means most people are not actually watching the impeachment hearings. But Schiff is aiming at the top Democrat donors, the people like that, the people who are actually going to have money, pour money into his campaign when he announces his actual next move. So that's his game. And for all we know, it could very well succeed. I mean, you have plenty of politicians who are absolutely despicable who use publicity stunts to catapult themselves forward. Maxine Waters was the first person to begin aggressively calling for Trump's impeachment at the very, very beginning, and it actually poured a lot of money into her campaign, even though she's in a district that she absolutely cannot lose. So the politicians who are getting famous off this are definitely profiting from it.
Hey, and not to mention that Mad Maxie doesn't even live in the district she represents. She lives in a $4 million home in an exclusive area of Los Angeles, and
she's around Beverly Hills. She's around right off Wilshire, I believe.
Right, and her constituents are literally overwhelmed by poverty, drugs, gangs, and everything else, and yet they keep voting for this person. Look, I think a lot goes to Paul Ryan and the real rhinos, because a lot of these people should have been ejected from the House, but nobody there has the guts to throw out a Maxine Waters, who's corrupt to the core. She was voted the fourth most corrupt member of the House. And what are we doing here, right?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming. Led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange, under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous situation. Most people are disgusted by it. The people who are actually tuning in are largely people who are very supportive of President Trump, or very much obsessed with destroying him at any means necessary. And for most people, even Democrats, they elected Congress to actually do things for them. And the people who are leading this, Schiff, Waters, whatever, the people in districts that they absolutely cannot lose, certainly not by a challenge from the center, from the right. They're only worried about challenges from the left. So, of course, they're going to go as far after destroying Trump as possible. Meanwhile, the House is not actually doing the people's business.
Yeah, exactly the point. And maybe we're better off that they're not doing our business because they do it so badly and so corruptly. So obviously Trump is not going to be removed from office. It was a pipe dream on whose ever part to ever think that he could be. But it just shows you, like, the show. It's all just a show.
Yeah, it's theater. It's theater that's meant to advance certain people's agendas and careers. That's meant to advance the larger Democrat narrative, which they're admitting that not only are they going to lose impeachment, they're likely to lose the election. You have Schiff coming forward and stating that we have to do impeachment because the election results might be illegitimate. So they're challenging the very legitimacy of the electoral system, both in 2016 and now in 2020. They're challenging the legitimacy of the Senate. They're basically saying that the House and the Democrats who run it are the only legitimate authority. The American voters are not a legitimate authority. The Supreme Court is not a legitimate authority. The Senate is not a legitimate authority. The White House is not a legitimate authority. Nancy Pelosi and Schiff and Nadler are the ones who are supposed to be running the country, which is insanely egotistical.
Yeah, egotistical and dangerous to ongoing any semblance of democracy here. They don't really care. They're enemies of democracy, I guess, is what I'm saying here, Daniel.
Yeah, they're enemies of democracy. They're enemies of the very idea of actually let the people decide. Because all this originated with their claim that the 2016 election had, for some reason, that they can't properly articulate, but involves Facebook, the Russians, and possibly space aliens, was illegitimate. They still can't explain how or why exactly. They've launched impeachment in a bid to reverse that result. And now we've got another election coming up, and yet they're saying you can't trust voters. What does that say?
God, what it tells you is These people are real head cases. And, let's talk about their candidates here. I don't believe that any of these four that are left, there might be a few others, but pretty much there's four candidates. There's Plugs Biden, as Bill Clinton used to call him. There's Crazy Bernie. There's Klobuchar, and there's Buttigieg, whatever his name is. Those are the four who are left. They perfectly split. Oh, and Warren, I take it back, 5. And then you have, Steyer, who's not a real candidate, and you have Bloomberg, who's just a disruptor and knows that he has no chance. So you've got 6, but they all perfectly split the vote to ensure that none of them can get the requisite number of delegates going into the convention. And then the other thing is that under Democratic Party rules, none of the delegates are bound to their nominee, so they can all switch on the first vote. In the Republican, they have to adhere to the first vote in the convention, but then they're free to go support whomever. Here, as usual, the Democrats do not put a premium on loyalty, whether to the party or to the country.
Well, they have no loyalty whatsoever to the country. Their loyalties are often personal and they're ideological. Thus, you have Bernie, who insists that he's a Democrat whenever he actually needs to run for office. And then the rest of the time, of course, he's an independent or a socialist or whatever he is. You've got Hillary Clinton, who's now openly stating that she's not going to support Bernie if he's the nominee. So these people are broken up into factions and they're out for themselves.
Yeah, well, I like to say the Democrats have all the quality of a dog except loyalty. So
I don't think that's very fair to dogs.
Yeah, well, hey, but dogs are very loyal creatures. They'll never turn on you if you treat them right. But the Democrats turn on you the first opportunity they have. Your guess, who is going to be the nominee on that show over there, that clown show?
I mean, Biden has fairly consistently had the inside track, largely because he has black support. And his opponents are absolutely inept at actually getting black support. I mean, you've got Bernie, you've got Elizabeth Warren, you've got Buttigieg, who has almost zero black support. So none of these people are particularly appealing to black people. Steyer and Bloomberg have actually shown some ability, certainly, to buy the endorsements of black politicians. They've actually made some inroads with black vote, but I don't think they're likely to challenge Biden in that regard. So if this was a mostly white electorate, it would be over, but the Democrats are increasingly dependent on black votes. The big X factor is Obama, who has lately become more involved. And obviously Biden is getting black votes largely because of Obama. We don't know exactly what Obama is going to do. He's come out against Bernie. He's threatening to bring down Bernie if he actually is on track to become the nominee. He's made some signs of backing Elizabeth Warren. In theory, he could shift black votes from Biden to Warren, which would be a potential game changer, but we don't know that that's actually going to happen.
You think Pocahontas can really do that? She's such a phony. She's a total pathological liar here. She's a lot like Clinton in that respect. When you ask him a question, there's no reason to lie, but she'll lie anyway, just because she is more comfortable lying than telling the truth.
Yeah, she is a completely compulsive liar. Then again, so is Biden. And then again, so is Bernie. He just disguises it better. None of these people have any remote concept of what honesty or authenticity is. But Warren's obviously inauthenticity is Hillary-esque. That's been a problem for her. Her campaign at this point has collapsed twice. That said, if she can come back from that, that would be impressive. But I don't think Obama's going to throw his weight behind a failing candidate. So unless she figures out a way to claw her way back to the top, I don't think Obama's going to back her.
Yeah. And to me, the people have thrown out, Michelle Obama, she's this dream candidate. Look, the lady has never been under fire. She's never taken questions or been in a debate where she actually had to defend her views and further her viewpoint. And the other thing is that would require her to spend an inordinate amount of time with the former president. I think they see each other by appointment now only. They're hardly ever seen together. And they would have to disclose all of the money, the hundreds of millions of dollars that they've taken in, raked in the past 3+ years. They don't want to do that. It's never going to happen. Michelle, is a non-starter.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That would be an absolute emergency measure. And keep in mind, the Bernie cult of personality is very radical and very extreme. You've got the James O'Keefe videos now showing Bernie people talking about burning down Milwaukee if they don't get their way. So if they're just going to try to bring in Michelle Obama at the convention, that will blow up the party, will split up the party. It will mean that the Bernie people absolutely will stay home. And that itself is a game changer.
And the Bernie people, he's not going to get the nomination. This would make McGovern look like an unmitigated success. They cannot allow Bernie to go. Bernie, will alienate the very middle core that they need to have any chance, and he will alienate voters of every stripe. Hey, let's not forget, I know Trump says it a lot, probably too much, but in terms of minority unemployment and what's taking place there, the transformation in the country since the Great Recession, since the end of Obama, has really been nothing short of amazing. So that could result in a lot of minority support for President Trump that nobody is really expecting at this point, or none of the pundits are.
No, I don't think so. But again, the one thing we know at this point in politics, certainly in the Trump era, is you can't actually predict what's going to happen next, and I don't really try to do that.
Yeah, but it isn't it's not a far-fetched thing to say that he could get substantially more minority votes than he got last time in light of the economy, et cetera. But hey, like you said, prediction, Yogi Berra said, prediction is really tough, especially when you're talking about the future, and the future is always uncertain, but one thing that's not uncertain is that we can find your work on mag.com, right?
That's absolutely correct. I'm a showman journalism fellow with the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and as we look forward, we can understand that while the future might be unknown, we absolutely can laugh at whatever comes.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's always good for a laugh. Any questions, comments? Where do you think all this nonsense in the impeachment is heading? Who's going to be the nominee? We want to know all that. Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page is Financial Survival Network, and our home site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for a free newsletter. Daniel, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me on.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.